Great, great. We're live. We're going live. Let's see if we have everything activated here. Looks like we do. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patiently Waiting for Nothing podcast. And this is episode number 17. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if you're listening to me live, but if you're listening to a recording, I'm still grateful that you're taking time to listen to my conversation. I may only have one or two people listening, but I always follow the one person rule because I am that one that someone spoke to in a way that encouraged my life and motivated me to make choices to be the person that I am today. So if there's just one person that gets something out of what I'm going to share with you today, I'm grateful. So if that's you, well, so be it. All right. So I am Shemsu-t, or some people know me as Rita Stewart, and I am the owner of Master Force and the founder of Master Force International Leadership Academy. And I have been an executive life coach and life coach for many years. And I've been working with Master Force for over 35 years. And so a lot of times I'm sharing from the experience of growing into myself. Most of us we're so hard on ourselves. We want to be, right on top of everything right now. But really, we have to allow more room for the experience and the curiosity of living a life instead of working so hard to get it right. Sometimes it's just fun to find out what will happen, or what can I create, or what can be a different choice to make instead of always doing what we're supposed to do, right? So the reason that I'm actually doing this podcast is because in 2003, I published my first book, which is called Patiently Waiting for Nothing. And after selling 1,000 copies, I I realized that I did not particularly care to be with crowds. I was just getting to know myself too. I loved writing, but I didn't care. I didn't really have a good experience being in the throes of people asking me questions and sharing my work publicly and feeling the need to have to defend myself and the choices that I made. And so I took to more of a reclusive lifestyle. And now here we are, many years later, where I realized that still what's going on with patiently waiting for nothing needs to be shared. And now we have a different platform. We have different ways of sharing that. And I wanted to be able to share that with you. So that's why I'm doing this podcast. And sometimes I have people on. If you go and look at the earlier episodes, you'll find out that I had several different Master Force life coaches speak about the topics and how it reflected on them in their life and how they use the work and the work that they do and create to actually live inside of the themes that we created. Right. So, but this week's topic is sadness, right? Can you imagine that I'm saying sadness and I'm smiling? And it's really interesting because we have not gone to a school that taught us the power of our emotions and how we can have sadness and joy all in the same body at the same time and still be very productive in life. Like sadness doesn't always have to lead to depression or regret. In that, grief doesn't always have to take us over and drown out all of our other emotions. So I wanted to talk about sadness because many of us have not identified inside of our body where sadness lives or what has made us sad. So a lot of times we have not really progressed, in a space where we've healed our wounds enough to not be affected by them. So because of that, every time something happens in society, we're triggered, and we're triggered. And sometimes what's mostly triggered is our sadness, because many of us have unhealed relationships from our childhood with our parents, with our siblings, with our relatives, with our neighbors, even with God. We have these unhealed relationships. And so what we see out in society, we want to actually blame. We want to blame society for what's going on inside of us. But it really becomes necessary for us to use society as a mirror to say, if I'm seeing this, if this is showing up in my space and it bothers me, how can I use that to go deeper into myself to find out, where did that original feeling start from? What made me sad when I was a little girl and no one consoled me, no one helped to relieve that, no one walked me through what I was experiencing, or they told me I shouldn't feel like that, to be quiet, to ignore it, to turn it off, or they fed me and gave me gifts or gave me something else to ignore what I was feeling. All of these different ways that we've repressed our emotions still come out in our day-to-day experience of life. And we need to learn how to use that to actually evolve, right? So before I continue this conversation, I want to read to you what I wrote in my book, Patiently Waiting for Nothing. So in my book, I actually have affirmations, and then I also have themes, and then I also have what I call books that can take you deeper into the understanding of the subject. So this is the affirmation for sadness. Even when it rains, I am willing to seek the sun and chase after rainbows. Isn't that beautiful? Even when it rains, I am willing to seek the sun and chase after rainbows. So we can hear that if we speak that affirmation, we know that there may be times when it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging, but I know that the sun is going to come out. There's something brighter on the other side of what's going on. And I can begin to seek that. Even when it's raining, I know I can anticipate the sun. Or when the sun comes out, I can look for the rainbow. You hear that? But that's you that have to do that. No one else is going to do it. Now, sadness. There it is, the heaviness in my heart, determined to have me notice the pain of my thoughts and my behavior. Avoiding the feelings of sadness with alcohol, tobacco, and pleasure only makes it harder for the emotion to move to its place of balance. Where do I run? Why must I feel this snot in my stomach? This yearning is so great. It never leaves until I acknowledge its true place in my heart. My critical words, my sarcastic comments, my unchallenged behavior, and my unwilling submission to responsibility. Sadness becomes my guide to the inner denials of my soul. I haven't been listening. Searching for my truth, I rob myself by not heeding to right action and better judgment. On the cushion of remorse, I find the missing answer. The right thing to do is always possible. Change me now. Now, I hope that you're willing to hear something for yourself in that. One of my favorites is sadness becomes my guide to the inner denial of my soul. Most of us don't even realize we're here doing soul work. We have no idea that there's a blueprint that's downloaded, that's here to support us in finding our life purpose, our mission. What did we come here to leave society? What gift, what thing are we contributing that no one else can do? What is that? We'd rather deny our soul. We'd rather hide behind, the things that make us feel good right now instead of seeking the deeper knowing of ourselves. So let me read that affirmation again. The affirmation, even when it rains, I am willing to seek the sun and chase the rainbows. What this is telling us is that we can be in pain and still go outside of ourselves and find something to bring us into the light. Or we can be comfortable with our sadness and not try to run from it. We can be with it. We can feel it. I was thinking the other day about something. I don't know, I was watching something and I remembered a time when I was in high school. It was actually my senior year of high school that I was homeless. And it made me sad. It made me sad. And I actually decided to really go through the whole memory, because a lot of times I would stop myself from experiencing the memory because of how it made me feel. It made me feel sad, right? It made me feel unwanted, unloved, uncared for. So the other day when I was thinking about this, I realized that um, it was my senior year of high school, and I had actually been in the hospital most of that time because I had broken my hip, thigh, and knee, and ended up being in the hospital for 3 months. And when I came home, I had to be on crutches for a while before I could go back to school. And I didn't go back to school until April. And then I had to go back to school, and I had to go to night school in order to graduate with my class on time. And here I am, I had a tutor. I mean, I wanted to graduate with my class in 1976. So I was committed to do all the work that I needed to do. And I graduated from DuSable. And at that time, we were going to school all year round. And what that meant was you would go 45 days and then you would be off 15 days. But during those 15 days, if you wanted to, you can make up credits. You could take extra classes. And that's what I did most of the time. And then in the evening, I went to Dawson Skill Institute to make up credits. And I took secretarial training, typing and shorthand and filing. And, computers were coming out then. So we were learning how to code the cards. Really date myself, right? So I was going to school, and I think at the time when I actually got out of the hospital, I was living with my aunt, and she got mad at me and told me that I had to leave her house. And so I left, and I went and I moved with my friend's family, and they lived closer to my school, right? Because I had to figure out how to get to school, and I didn't have a job, but eventually I did get a job. Can you believe it only cost 30 cents to ride the bus? But sometimes people didn't give me 30 cents, but I was like, and I walked. I used to walk from 66 in Greenwood down to 49th and Wabash to get to school because I didn't have 30 cents, right? So anyway, I'm going through this thought the other day and I'm being with the sadness. And I realized that I needed to acknowledge myself for the, you know, it took a lot to do what I did. And there was no one acknowledging that at that time. And on top of that, my aunt had put me out, moved to my friend's house. Um, and I'm still going to school, going to night school, plus working. And I came home one day to their place and they were like, wash the dishes. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and then, she got mad because I didn't wash the dishes. And I'm thinking there are 4 other children in the house. Everybody's here. Why would you wait for me to come here to wash the dishes? And I didn't, right? I had to ask that question. And so I was asked to leave there. And I went to my grandmother's house, and and I was asked to leave there. I mean, it was just like, can you imagine this? Here I am, fresh out of the hospital, trying to graduate from high school, and I can't find a place to live. So I'm sleeping on people's, and I'm walking around with my backpack. I had, my one of my cousins had stole all my clothes, uh, just a lot. Do you hear me? And so I sat with that sadness. Boy, I sat with that sadness. And I allowed myself to see the character that it developed in me. I didn't allow it to put bitterness in my heart. I really prayed about that. I really asked God to not let me become bitter like the people that I saw in my life, especially the women that were in my life. I mean, even to the point I'm doing all of this work and I do graduate from high school with my class, and no one in my family comes to my graduation. Nobody wanted to celebrate me. Yeah. And that prepared me for my mission in so many ways. I didn't realize it then because I cried. I cried. I kept looking out in the crowd, I was in the choir, right? So I'm looking for my family, looking before we go and say, and no one was there, from my family. And I had actually gotten 10 tickets and had given out 10 tickets. So one of my teachers came up to me after the ceremony and she said, if we don't get you out of Chicago, you're gonna die, And I felt that. Matter of fact, I knew that I was not planning to live long. I couldn't imagine living past 30. Uh, I grew up in a very violent community, very violent family. My first cousins who were like my siblings, they died young. So I didn't expect to live past 30. So her saying that didn't bother me, but I was still more hurt that no one in my family or in my community that knew me personally had decided to come to my graduation. So anyway, the other day, I just stayed with that sadness and I just looked at it and I allowed myself to feel it. I allowed the tears to come. And I checked in to make sure that I had forgiven. And I did a lot of work on forgiving my family. Um, I thought that my family hated me, but I actually realized they just didn't know what to do with me. Many of us are anomalies. We show up because, they call us the black sheep, but we show up because we have that extra energy that's required to make a difference in our families, to bring a new level of overstanding so that people can begin to take on their life, right? And at that point, when I had graduated from high school, there hadn't been anyone else prior to me in my immediate family that had actually did that. Matter of fact, I was afraid of high school. I wanted to go right from 8th grade to college because nobody was making it out of high school. I'm like, something is wrong with high school. Ain't nobody getting through it. But anyway, after I sat with that sadness, it really brought me present to the work that we do at Master Force and why it's so, strong in my DNA to share the work. Because even when I broke my hip, thigh, and knee and read the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, one of the first things that I thought is, why aren't they teaching this in school? Why don't we know that we have the power to reprogram ourselves and redirect our thinking so that we can make changes in our lives and not get stuck being afraid to live, right? So I sat with that sadness. I sat with it, I cried. And it was so interesting because when I finished and I was done with it, I did everything I could do with it. There was no more. I wrote, I was actually writing in my journal, and my daughter texts me and she goes, "How many times a week do you cry?" I hadn't told her anything about this, but Mommy, how many times a week do you cry? And I'm thinking, uh, at least once. And then I was thinking about it. I said, but this week I probably cried maybe 2 or 3 times. But a lot, I don't always cry out of sadness. Sometimes I cry out of joy. Sometimes I cry out of memory of just living. Sometimes I cry because I'm so grateful of the opportunity that I have to live and be myself. Because considering the challenges that I faced, a lot of people don't get to do that, right? A lot of people don't get to this point in life where there's joy and substance at the same time, right? Yeah. So, but anyway, after I still have to share that story with her. I didn't get a chance to talk to her this week to share that I had that experience. But it was just amazing that I saw the sadness occur in the world. It was like it erupted. It erupted in the world right in front of my face. And I thought, all of us are feeling this. All of us are feeling this sadness, and we keep thinking it's somebody else's. And we keep thinking that it's something that someone else needs to do with it. But it really is ours. It belongs to you. It belongs to me. And it's nothing wrong with it. It's part of our feelings. I was looking how I don't know if you've read the book, the Napoleon Hill's, what is it called? Think and Grow Rich, right? And he talks in there about the 7 major negative emotions. And so he says that those emotions are fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, superstition, and anger. And can you imagine that all of those have the element of sadness in them? Every single one of them. And he says they are to be avoided. And the way that life is going now, every day there's fear. You go on social media, you're going to be triggered with jealousy if you're not balanced, or hatred. Something happens, you want to seek revenge. Then there's greed. And of course, there's superstition and anger. And the common denominator for every single one of those is sadness. Every single one. And it's almost like there's an unconscious decision to not know that we are divine, great beings, that we have come here to experience life and know ourselves as divine and great. But in order to get there, we have to go through we have to experience all of them and not have them be bad. They're just the experience, and they don't have to take us out. And of course, the 7 major positive emotions are desire, faith, love, sex, enthusiasm, romance, and hope. And the common denominator for all of those, joy. So you can cultivate joy, or you can sit in your sadness. But you cannot cultivate joy by denying your sadness. You really do have to embrace it. You have to be willing to experience that feeling, that darkness, that disconnect, whatever it is, so that it can open you, so that you can have room in your heart, so you can expose yourself to that softness. Otherwise, you just keep getting hard, brick by brick, protecting yourself, cementing yourself, closing off your feelings. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to experience that. And it's all a part of our development, our evolution into the highest version of our best self. We don't want to keep denying it. So, what I'm inviting you to do, I'm inviting you to look closer. Okay? I want you to look closer. I want you to take some time this evening to jot down your sadness. I want you to see, list 3 people that you need to forgive, that you need to reconnect to, that you need to let go of. 3, just 3. I'm not interested if I got 10. Okay, there's just more work to do. I want you to start with 3, because before you can get to 10, you have to develop some muscle. Most people just cut folks off, boom, bye. The only time you need to cut people off is if you have made an attempt to make a difference and they're resisting that and they're not taking responsibility for their actions. Or there's abuse. And that abuse can be emotional, spiritual, physical, psychological, okay, mental. But I want you to actually take some time to journal and see where your sadness is. See where your unforgiveness is. See where your regret is. See where your grief is. And, I'm going to have to do another podcast. I did not list grief in my book. And that's very interesting because I was a widow at 25. And it took me 25 years later to grieve. That's a whole nother story, but grief literally can block your breathing. It shuts down your lungs. When you look at Louise Hay and she talks about the symptoms, grief uh, is actually not taking in all of life. Because a lot of times what we do when we release someone to the other side, or they transition to the other side, because we need to actually release them, but most of the time we don't. We use that grief to hold on to them. But actually, if we release them and let them go, we can establish a different type of relationship, a different type of connection. And we can even be closer to them now than what we were when they were on the planet with us. But that's a different lesson, right? Tonight, I just want you to work with your sadness, right? I just want you to jot it, write it. If you got to cry, cry. It's okay. And like I said, it's going to take something. All of us are inside of this bubble of sadness. And a lot of it is because it's growing pains. We keep wanting someone to rescue us, and it's just not going to happen. We all have to do our own work. But we can lend each other a hand. We can sit with each other in our pain and be with one another. Okay? So let that be okay. All right? So what I want to also do is let you know that I have a course called the Master Force Life Course. And I'm sharing a lot of the things that I said that they need to be teaching in school in this life course. It's a 12-week course and it starts August 9th. You can actually find it on Eventbrite. It's called the Master Force Life Coach course, or you can find it on my Facebook page. You can find it on my Instagram, right? You can find it on Twitter. It's called the Master Force Life Course. And we're only accepting 20 people at this time. As more coaches come online, we'll be able to teach more people. But we like to keep the classes small so that people can get individualized coaching and really ground themselves in the knowledge and feel the change taking place as they go. Because in 12 weeks, you really do have a sense of balance and well-being that you've never felt before. And you'll also be able to take what you've learned in that 12 weeks and make a difference for your household, you know, your workplace, the people around you. We make sure that you're grounded very well. So, and it's an online course, so you can do it. We send it to your email. We work with you once a week. We bring in a new topic. You have a buddy that works with you. You have a mentor. We have our Zoom sessions every few weeks to make sure that everyone is getting the information deeply ingrained, right? So look for that course. It's called the Master Force Life Course. Really, all of us are so needed, all hands on deck. Our children, man, we're in a transition that's so deep that we need a lot of us to become very conscious quickly, for the sake of ourselves, our family, and especially our children and our grandchildren. Yeah, this is a new time for us. And believe me, every single one of us that's here on this planet, we asked to be here. We made a request of the universe. Put me in. I'm ready. That's why you have a lot of old souls out here. A lot of old souls that can be single. All of y'all complaining, but you asked for this. It's a power move. Stop complaining and get deep within yourself. And then, you know, this is also twin flame season. either here or the other side, but you are not alone. Okay. That's a different topic too. How many topics did I say tonight? There's a different topic. You know, you're going to be listening to me for a long time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Patiently Waiting for Nothing, the podcast. You can find this book on Amazon, and I'll be seeing you for podcast number 18. And I'll have to figure out what that topic is because I wait for my spirit to tell me. Okay. In the meantime, you stay cool and remember, stay patient. We're waiting for nothing. We're good. All right. I love you guys. Good night.